I spent a number of years in commercial television. In doing that, I did a lot of police beat stories. And of course, when you're interviewing someone on the scene of a murder or whatever else, whatever question you would ask the police, and I'm sure you are trained to do this, you give exactly the answer to what is asked and not a single syllable more. And it's a dance that we play. And here you are just opening up. So my question is, because as officers, you're trained just to say what you're supposed to say. So why did you decide to go on the record and just tell it like it is?
So it's actually cool because I'm pretty sure she knows what I'm about to say, but along the side of with my father, of him being one of the people, one of the things he first told me when I got out here is don't let nobody punk you. And he said it just like that. You speak up for yourself, and that's what I did. But along the side of what was going on and speaking up, there was actually one female officer who I ran into by way of Lieutenant Colonel Doyle, who we have right now. And he spoke about this female officer that was going through some hardships, another black female officer. And he said, hey, she needs some support. And that's one thing that we always do as black folk, period. But as black women, that's what we do. At least that's what I was taught to do, is you look out for your next sister. And so the officer that he was speaking about is a female officer named Nikki Brown, who is here as well, too. And that is one female that I looked up to tremendously. And I knew that she was going through some hardships. And it was interesting to see some of the hardships that she was going through were some of the same things I was experiencing, too, as another black female officer. So I just felt obligated. Like there's just a sense of obligation to speak up and speak about the things that you're going through, because this is crazy. I'm probably the youngest person. Well, I am the youngest person up here, but you just can't stay quiet about things. Like you just can't. These things that we are dealing with, it's crazy. It's 2019. Like I'll never let anybody shut me up.
James, did you want to say something?
Yes, I'd like to reflect on a situation. There was a speech that President Obama made, and he said to the country, how did things get this bad? And there was a teacher in Atlanta, and she was a sixth grade teacher. She asked the students to reflect on President Obama's question. And this student wrote back to the president and said, Mr. President, the reason why things are bad is because the Constitution of the United States of America is only a piece of paper. The things that make us great are the things that we stand for and the morality that we enforce. I think that says it all. I hope I'm a part of that morality to enforce those institutions that we say that we represent. And that commands and forces me, along with others who believe in the righteous mission of democracy, to do the same.
So I agree to it. I think most people that know me know that I don't enjoy interviews. I don't like any of it. I very seldom share anything that I'm in. But one thing that most people that know me would know is that I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to speak how I feel. And I didn't want anyone else, from my standpoint, explaining ethical and what we were right now, and the struggle and the fights, what it's like being African American in our police department. And not everyone can tell that story as an African American officer. The trials and the tribulations that we've experienced, and the anger in those moments, it's just so real and on the surface, with our officers like Luther and Milton and these officers that have just been done so wrong. And it's important for us to be here and tell what the story is.
I went into this hoping or looking for this to be a call to action, because not just post-Ferguson, but even before that, and as we sit here today, there's probably some viral video of an officer mistreating a citizen. And as much as people asked, where are the good officers out here to speak up about these actions that those that share the career field that we have, where are those officers? And as much as we would like to tell these stories, there are, as you see, there's only 5 of us on this stage and those few in this video. But the true reality of it is there is a fear of retaliatory practices for us to actually step outside that blue line and expose some of the trials and tribulations that we experience internally, as well as the corrupt practices that you all see that play out in viral videos. And although I joked with Ruth about possibly needing a job after this airs,
But for real though.
but seriously, we all have had to deal with that I guess proverbial black book, and I had to deal with it from the day I was in the academy and I spoke out against something that was contrary to any recruit that would have ever done, and I was labeled Little Malcolm in terms of Malcolm X and Reverend Rice. And so for the better part of my career, I have been in that little black book. But we truly do need the support of the community, not just when, one of us pays the ultimate price and dies in the line of duty, but for those who are internally fighting so that your civil rights aren't violated or that your loved one isn't lost due to violence that should have not occurred. So that is my, motivation behind this.
Are you okay?
Wait for another question.
We're going to let James save his voice. You were so kind just even to show up. He's under the weather, and just thank you for being here. And thank you, those of you who did tweet in a couple of questions. So I'm going to read a couple of those. One says, many of you said you became an officer to be part of the solution. What does it mean to you to be part of the solution, and what advice would you give to someone else who really wants to help be a part of the solution? Now it's a big question.
The first thing is don't give up. You can't. You're going to face a lot of difficulty in this job from the community standpoint, especially as a minority. I've been called nigger. I've been called everything you can imagine from people that look just like me and from people who don't look like me. And you have to have the will and think about why you took this job. I took it because I wanted to put people in jail who committed violent crime. And so you have to hold on to why you became a police officer and not give up.
Can I? Oh, cool. The other question, this is kind of a related question. What does community policing mean to you? What does that, or do you think it's an empty term?
Community policing to me is interesting because you pair this term community with policing, and while we need to work wholeheartedly together to combat these different issues, that's the main one being crime. Community policing is something, a term that mainstream police departments like to use all so often just as an easy answer, like community policing. We have a community policing engagement. This is what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. But are they really doing something? Nah. If you go to a community policing, if you come to someplace, and I guess we can go ahead and say this because we said we need y'all support, right? So we can go ahead and say some stuff that we said in there that didn't get aired. So at St. Louis County Police Department, do we have a community policing unit? No. No, you all should probably come to the council meetings and ask about that. We don't have one. So when you say this community policing and what it is that you're supposed to do, they'll say, oh yeah, community policing is going and engaging with the community and knocking on doors and doing, man, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. It's not just shooting a basketball in a hoop and saying, oh, look at me, I'm playing basketball with the kids. Oh, look at me, I'm passing out basketball cards. That's all cool, that's fine and dandy, but what is that really doing? That kid is gonna remember that for 5-10 minutes, and then he's gonna go about his day. Is he going to remember that officer who was playing basketball with him when his mother is getting beaten, when somebody's knocking his mama between the washer and dryer, like we say sometimes? Maybe, maybe not. Is he going to remember that policing when the drug dealer is selling drugs on his corner and he telling him he need to come and be a part of his gang too? Maybe, maybe not. Community policing is truly being involved with that kid though, knowing that child's name, knowing where he goes to school, knowing the struggles that he's dealing with, knowing what's good, what his triggers are, what his triggers aren't, knowing what his family is going through, knowing how you can be a resource to that kid. Community policing is not just trying to be AI with that kid, Allen Iverson. That's not just it. And that's what we think it is sometimes as mainstreams. And we just use that easy out. And it's so frustrating because that's not it. And it's like, oh, it makes some folks feel good. Oh, that's what we did. Oh, look at this picture. Look at this picture of me playing with these kids. Look at this picture of me dancing with. No, like that's fine. That looks good for media. That looks good for PR, right? But then you're going to go back to your house and you're going to sleep in your 3-4 bedroom apartment while this kid is sitting here sharing a twin-size bed with his sister, his brother, his mama, his auntie, and whoever. And how are you helping that kid? That's what community policing is. Helping that kid get some resources.
I see community policing on two levels. There is a term called community policing, and it's a concept in law enforcement where the community actually becomes a participant, an active participant in the law enforcement process. That means that the citizens are there to help and assist the police in carrying out the mission. Now, that's one phase of it. But the other phase of it is community policing means that you have a police department that people can trust. You have a police department where there is integrity. You have a police department that is not carrying out an institutional policy that is antagonistic to the well-being of the community. And I must say this, that our police departments were there originally to support racism and white supremacy. And that is something we have to address in this country, that's a reality. And when our police departments began to say, and this is what America must say also, that we must say that our nation, our people, must not deny the humanity of our community. Because when we do that, we uncover and reflect the inhumanity of ourselves.
Okay, we got time for one more question. What can we in the community do for you as police officers? How can we be your advocates?
Well, that goes towards what I was talking about, because it's a real fear amongst those in my that share my profession, that actually want to do the right thing, that actually get out, put on this uniform, and do the right thing. But there's a fear of having to decide on whether or not standing outside of that blue line and putting my career progression at risk. And so the only way to eliminate that fear of basically crashing and burning your career progression is to have community support. Like Mr. Buchanan said, when the community would hear on the radio that he was in need of aid, and they would come to his assistance. And after that, those who worked with him saw that the community was with him, and it changed their behavior. The same thing has to happen on a regular basis. And I think most people forget of how important their vote is. And so we typically, as citizens, we stop at the police chief with the blame. In actuality, chiefs of police are appointed or hired by elected officials. So in actuality, you all can dictate what the trajectory and how your police department works if you begin to be a little bit more vocal in what it is that you want to see in not only the leadership, but in the product that they put out. And so I think it stops too often with just the chief. Go ahead.
Can I add to that? I agree with most of what the lieutenant is saying, but the reality is that police, we are why the community doesn't trust us. Let's not forget that, because when you have officers that have policed in communities and done so much wrong, and we as officers, so few of us are willing to walk into internal affairs to file a complaint, to go to the FBI and file a complaint, to do those things that we all know that are necessary with changing the culture. And that goes from the top to the bottom. All of us, especially in the city of St. Louis, we all can walk in and file a complaint against an officer. I've done it. I'm ostracized for it. But you know what? I sleep very well at night because I've done it. And I'm not saying that I believe that all white officers are bad and all black officers are great. That's false. That's false. We have bad officers. We have them here. And it's important for us as officers to show the community that we're willing to stand up. So when an officer likes the idea of me bleeding out, I'm not worried about it, because if I'm on a call and something happens to Heather Taylor, this city is going to burn down. Because that's how they feel about me, because I've stood up, and it's important. And the county.
I think one thing that's also very important is you have to become a part of the solution. So all too often, while it is very easy to sit back and say, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But how hard is it sometimes to say, hey, you know what, this is wrong, but I have the answer. And while it's not always easy to say you have the answer or come up with the solution, but if I don't have the answer, if somebody comes to me and say, hey, look, what are we supposed to do about this? I look up to Heather Taylor quite often. I see what Heather Taylor is doing. So if I don't have the answer, she may have the answer. So what am I going to do? I'm going to band behind her, and I'm going to support her. But what we have to do is we have to realize you have to become a part of the solution. Become a police officer. Become a politician, become a judge, become an attorney, become all these different things who are supposed to serve in a serving capacity, and then make that difference. You can do that. Don't let what you see just be an obstacle in front of you. While we all know that representation matters. And so while it's that much easier when you're in a dire need as a civilian or a citizen, whoever, and you see another person that comes up to you as a police officer and they look just like you, you're going to feel a little bit more ease. Become a police officer. Come and apply with us. Don't just think that, oh, St. Louis County, because I've heard it time and time again being a police officer, St. Louis County is just a bunch of white male police officers. While this is true, we can change it. Become that police officer. Fill out that application. Never let anybody tell you what you cannot do. Fill it out all the time and become that difference in what you want to see.
And I agree with what everyone has said, and I'd like to just add a brief comment. You know, the question came about, who is going to police the police? And that's a very, very profound question, because even if you see something happen and you report it to the police, it doesn't necessarily mean that something's going to be done about it. We all saw Eric Garner choked to death. He said 11 times, "I cannot breathe." We went to the federal government, the institution that was supposed to administer justice, and our attorney general said there was not evidence to bring charges, although we were looking at it with our own eyes. And in this moment, our democracy is saying, "I can't breathe." In that very instance, our integrity and our moral fabric of America is saying, "I cannot breathe." So we have to unlock that lockhole that's on an institution that's going the wrong way, and say that we have to not only stand up for our police officers, but what the police officers are supposed to be representing. And that's democracy. Thank you.
if you were on the inside here over the last several months, you know a lot has been going on. We lost our CEO, and just trying to keep our arms around everything has been such a task. And I've just, you've done an amazing job, Amy, just holding this whole station together and just standing behind our team and making sure we have the resources to complete this. Because without you, Black and Blue would be nothing more than a good idea. So thank you.
Okay, we did our part. Now I need you to do your part. Please tell your friends about this. Please watch. Please share it. A lot of projects we have, the documentary, the content is the culmination. This is not the culmination. This is really the beginning. So this project airs on Monday night at 7 p.m., Monday, August 5th, 7 p.m., 9 PBS. And it'll air multiple times. We'll also share it via social. We'll share it via the PBS app. The first step is to watch it and tell your friends on Monday night. Also, we're doing a Twitter chat. You can see the hashtags over there of Black and Blue and 9PBS. Our great social engagement team will be on Twitter. They'll convene a Twitter chat. They ask provocative questions. They get people to converse. And again, thank you to the officers who told their stories, to the officers who came to that event. And thank you again, Alan Green, for being our inspiration. And thank you for all of you for coming tonight and spending your time in this way.